Hi, everyone. I'm Patty, and I am an alcoholic. It's fabulous to be here with all of you tonight. I live in the state of Washington, and I live in Kirkland, but I'm actually over on Whidbey Island. So I send you greetings from Whidbey Island. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, just overlooking the sound with beautiful water. I never went to places like this when I was drinking. I did a lot of my drinking on the Galveston coast in Texas. I would take a Greyhound bus from Houston, and because I couldn't be trusted to have a driver's license. So I would take the bus and I would check into a seedy motel, and I would go to a liquor store and get something to drink and get loaded before I went to the motel bar, where I would drink and generally not come back to my room alone, and never had any idea of what a dangerous situation I was putting myself in. So that was right towards the end of my drinking. So to be able to come to this place tonight, several decades later, and to remember that, and to be grateful that somehow, somewhere, someone saw it necessary to bring me to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous so that I could enjoy one day of continuous sobriety. There's not a bigger gift than that. I want to let you know that I took my last drink of alcohol on November the 6th of 1981, and that's a little while ago. I know someone here is in your first 5 minutes of sobriety, welcome. There is not one soul in this room that has not been exactly where you are. And I've heard this said many, many times, that some of us have too many years and not enough days. And what I have is one day of sobriety. I have had it continuously since I put the last drink down, but my sobriety can end like this if I don't do the deal. So I'm very grateful for your example and your encouragement that keeps me pushing through. Even today, I have challenges, and probably the biggest challenge I have is to remind me I need to work my program. Because you can hear the saying coming, I have alcoholism, not alcoholism. And it is still hard for me to believe that statement in the big book that I was so horrified by, which says we are not saints, because that is pretty much the reason I came here. Because if you couldn't be a saint, why be anything at all? And that's the environment I thought that I had grown up in. So another thing that I want to say at the beginning, because this is important to me, it's not to be impressive or anything, but we have at least 5 generations of sponsorship in this room tonight. We have my sponsor, and then me and people, and my sponsor is Penny with her hand up. We have people that I sponsor, which is Juliet and Karen, who announced her 34 years. And we have Carissa, who is sponsored by Juliet. And I don't know who all Carissa sponsors, but I know you're in this room. So this is the legacy, and this is the network that we develop by working the steps. And this is the proof that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is not a me program, it is a we program. And if I don't say anything else of value tonight, I want to say that this is a we program. You don't have to do it alone, and you should not try to do it alone. Even if you are a superstar and can, just don't try it. It will have a much better outcome if you work with others. A few things about myself. I was born in the South, in Louisiana. As a matter of fact, I grew up in the great state of Texas, and that is where I found God. It's where I found booze. It is where I found men and then women. And it's where my life went to hell in a handbasket pretty quick. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 22 years old after I had an unfortunate car accident with a Harris County sheriff when I was on my way to the hospital to get my stomach pumped because I had too much alcohol and just a few too many phenobarbs. This is, many years ago. Probably I've never even heard of it, but they really were barbiturates back in the day. So I went to jail with the big girls, and I thought even drunk and practically in a blackout that I was so much better than each of them because didn't they know who I was? So when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous a few days later, I walked into the Spring Branch Club of Houston, Texas, and there was a kind of a little waiting area, and there was a desk there, and no one was sitting at the desk. And even with all of my authority issues, I was like, oh my gosh, no one's in charge. I can't stay here. So I made a beeline into the parking lot, and this guy came into the parking lot and said, are you looking for Alcoholics Anonymous? And I said, I am. And I'm lucky that he was a safe guy and that all he wanted for me was to have sobriety. And he brought me in and he talked to me about resentments and about alcoholism. And I wasn't too sure about any of that. I didn't know if I was an alcoholic. I was pretty sure I didn't have resentments. I thought I'm not an angry sort of person. And I was 22. So I certainly thought I knew a lot about many things, but not quite enough about many more. So I was conflicted. I'm a person that did not jump right into the solution when I got here. When I had grown up being able to open my beautiful brown eyes and get anything that I wanted, I was loving. I could hug you. I could charm you. I could love you. You could love me. I mean, that's how life had been for me. But none of those tools worked in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had also been able just to raise my hand and talk to you about God, and that had often just knocked people off of the ledges they were sitting on because people thought I was very spiritual, drunk, yes, but also very, very spiritual. And so you have to be really careful with that word spiritual. And so I was sure that y'all wanted to hear me talk all about God. And pretty much people didn't want to hear it. They, if you were in a meeting where they were going around the table, the closer it got to me, the more the people that would come after me started putting their hands up because it's like, oh, she will never shut up. And that's how I was for my first 3.5 years in the room. And I was in and out and in and out. And I had as much as 20 months of sobriety and as little as 7 days of sobriety. It didn't matter because I did not concede to my innermost self that I was an alcoholic. And I, went back to drinking 13 times from my very first meeting. And on the last day that I drank, I ordered a pitcher of beer at a pizza parlor on Holly Street in Belmont, California. And it was like one of those little hotel pitchers. They're really tiny. They're just like one swig, basically. And I was just working my way through that pitcher of beer, and I had this voice that said, what in the world are you doing? Why are you drinking yet again? And what had happened in my life from May of 1977 until that day is I was no longer employable. I could no longer be in a committed relationship, even though I was the beloved baby of 3 in my family. My family was just like, oh my gosh, what is happening to our daughter? My family had stopped writing my address on their little Rolodex that I have until this day. This was long before cell phones and all of that. And I didn't trust myself. And I was without hope, and I felt disconnected from you and from the tiniest understanding that I had of a higher power at that time in my life. And I had come to resent, and I knew that I resented the people who held the solution for me, and that was you, because you somehow could hang on to your sobriety, and for whatever reason, I could not. And the big book talks about that, that some of us will not, and some of us cannot. And I was in both of those camps. So on November the 6th, when I took my last drink, I got up and I left that pizza parlor. I did go to a liquor store and I picked up a fifth of Jack Daniels, and that was my choice of alcohol, always was Jack Daniels. And I drove to the house where I had been staying, because I had only been released from about the fourth treatment program I had been in 30 days earlier. And my sponsor was there, and he said these words to me. He said, "Well, you've been drinking and you do not need a sponsor. You need to make a decision to get sober. And when you've made that decision, we will talk about sponsorship." And I want you to know that he took another breath in that conversation. I wanted to kill him. I was so offended and thought, well, that is not very hospitable or welcoming. But you know what? He settled the score with me, and he meant it. And I never went back to him for sponsorship, but it pissed me off enough to where I have never picked up a drink since then. And I went to a meeting that night, and what I did was this, and I raised my hand, but I didn't raise my hand to talk about God and to tell you all about me. I raised my hand to say, help. Even though alcohol has stripped me of everything valuable in my life, it has separated me from everything good, everything that will sustain me and make my life livable, I will still choose alcohol. And I knew that I would still choose that fifth of Jack Daniels on the front seat of my van. Because why? Because I am an alcoholic, and that is my go-to. But instead, two guys came out to my van and they removed that fifth of Jack Daniels from me. And so I never had to take a drink. And from that moment on, I've done my best to follow directions. I have also done my best not to be a saint. And I have had many a sponsor say to me in the rooms, if you never made another mistake again, if you never sinned again, you would be in no danger of being promoted to sainthood, Patty, because I have made some messes in my life. And we make messes, we are human beings, and I am a human being. And while I don't excuse myself for the mistakes that I've made, I do forgive myself for the mistakes that I've made. And this is why we don't just have one step and the 12th step. We have 12 steps to keep us right-sized. When I heard the term right-sized when I first came here, I felt so constrained by that, and it felt so punitive to me. And today it is my greatest gift that I get to be just exactly who I am. Nothing bigger, nothing smaller. I just strive to be the best person that I can be each day. So for these last 39 years that I have been sober, and I say that to y'all, I do hold that up as a beacon of hope, because I was the kind of alcoholic that once the thought of alcohol landed in any part of my brain, and I am not kidding you, I was screwed, because I knew that it could be 24 seconds later, it could be 24 hours later, or 24 days later. But whenever it got around to that part that made me take the next step, I was sure to drink. So when I go to meetings and I hear them say the words, if you never want to drink again, you are in the right place, that is true. And what is also true is even if you do want to take another drink, you are in the right place. We get that in Alcoholics Anonymous. So when I began my sobriety on November the 7th of 1981, I began with this thought: no matter what, I will not pick up the first drink. Now, that may sound easy, and it may sound like, Nancy Reagan and like saying, well, just don't do it. Just don't shoot the gun and just don't take drugs or this. But I want you to know that making that solid commitment that I would not take the first drink has worked because I meant it. I'm the kind of person that really had to get down on my little Southern Baptist knees and say the third step prayer so that I even had a hope of accepting this disease that I have of alcoholism. And I had to come off of my lofty spiritual ladder, and I had to ask you for help. And I had to tell you, I have conflicts, and I think that my God does not care about me. And I am sure that if you knew me, that you will not care about me. And what you have done every day since November the 7th of 1981 is you have shown me that I do not know what I am talking about. Because you have loved me and supported me. And yes, you have confronted me and you have told me when I am full of it. I told you that my sponsor is in the room tonight, and I want you to know that as much as I value sponsorship, I am one of the most difficult people in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous to sponsor for all of those reasons that I stated at the beginning, that I am charming, that I am lovable, and that I am sensitive and I am smart. But I'm tough. I am tough to sponsor. And I've not taken well to sponsorship in these rooms. And I have fired sponsors and been fired, and I have gone back. Ask Penny. This is my third or fourth time of being sponsored by her because I just fall off the beam, as it says in the 12 and 12. So what do I want to tell you about my recovery? I was not happy to be diagnosed an alcoholic, and I was not happy to spend so much time in hospitals and halfway houses because my alcoholism took me to the darkest of places. It took me to treatment programs, fancy ones, $10,000 ones, and to low-grade ones like the Austin State Hospital. That's where my alcoholism has taken me. My alcoholism has taken me to places where I have held some of the best jobs that a person in my field could ask for. But you know what? If you can't make it back after lunch, they don't have a lot of use for you. And that's the kind of alcoholic that I was, drunk and sober. I just was not always that reliable. So today, everything begins with acceptance. Acceptance, not just that I'm an alcoholic, that I'm powerless over alcohol, but acceptance that there is a solution. When I saw that as a chapter in the big book, I thought, oh my gosh, how stupid did they think that we are, that they would have a chapter called There Is a Solution? Really? But there is a solution, and it goes beyond that simple commitment that I made so long ago, and a commitment that I continue to make. I had to get really, really vulnerable with the people in my life, most of them strangers, when it came to my issues around God, because I actually came here wanting to restore my relationship with a higher power. But I also came here with the notion that I was fairly different from everyone around me. And one of my big sober surprises is I found out that I was a lesbian. And this was not something that I was wanting to discover. I thought, oh, this is pretty twisted that this is happening. And how is this going to work out as I try to make amends and merge back with my family of origin and live in this new world? But, again, I was mistaken because you loved me and you supported me. And when my family freaked out, you walked with me through that. And eventually, through the process of the 12 steps, my family came around. And when I found the perfect partner, my family came to our commitment ceremony. And today, that same woman is my wife, and we've been together for 32 years. That is a miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. When I was about 5 years sober, at the height of the AIDS crisis, I was so confused by everything that was happening. It's like I went to a memorial service at least once a week, and I became so angry at God, which scared me because by then I was really dependent upon a higher power. And I found myself just screaming at God and saying, I'm so angry and I'm so confused. And I had all of the homophobic stuff going on, but I had a solid foundation with this God of my understanding. And because you knew me, because you had told me to be open to you, at least just a few of you, I made it through that. And today I have a much stronger relationship with the God of my understanding because I know that God can handle it. I just don't have to be, any certain way. So if you are new to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know that many of you are, this is what I want to share with you. These are the basic tools that work. Do not drink no matter what. And if you do drink, keep coming back. Get a sponsor. Before you leave this meeting tonight, get a phone number of someone that you can reach out to or text. Do not leave here without letting that happen or without you making that happen. Make peace with whatever understanding you have of God. God is however you want God to be, and God is ready for however you are. Find one person in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous to trust so that you can share your secrets with them. And when you get just a few minutes or a few hours underneath your belt, pass it on to the person who's right behind you, because that is how we have come to be the society of sober people that we are. Thank you so much for letting me pass it on.